Working on a large Stuart model steam plant, part 15, completing the reassembly and a bit of piping. I'm having a look at this bit of piping because I can't remember which way it fitted. Oh yes, I do remember now. But to fit it, I have to partially dismantle it. I need to remove the centre section, then fit the fiddly bit around the back, then fit the other fiddly bit underneath the condenser which feeds the engine. Reassembling things is always quite difficult because you've got to be really careful not to mark any of the existing components. And I'm really going to try and avoid having to repair the paintwork, so if I don't scratch it in the first place, there won't be a problem. In this clip, I'm persuading the piping to fit where I want it to fit, and it's particularly difficult with copper piping because this is work hardened quite a bit, so bending it in situ so it all lines up is more difficult than it first appears. Luckily, I have really large powerful hands and a vice-like grip from being a keyboard player, so after a while the copper piping was beaten into submission. This clip shows me connecting the exhaust pipe from the pump to the exhaust condenser oil trap. You may be wondering why I'm waving the scriber in front of the camera. Well, I'm using the scriber through the holes underneath the baseboard to locate in the holes in the baseboard of the pump, and the scriber shows me where the holes are. I just replace the scriber position with a screw, one of these. There are 4 in total. This shows me putting the first one in position. And one more time I'm using the scriber to locate the front hole in the baseboard of the pump. I only need to identify the positions of 2 of the holes, and now using my electric screwdriver I'm screwing the screws into the baseboard of the pump, and once I've repeated the process another 3 times with 3 more screws, the pump is firmly held to the baseboard. This clip shows me connecting the steam line to the valve which acts as a regulator to control the speed of the water pump, and I'm making sure that I get all of the nuts tight. Now I'm opening my first new tin of Brasso and removing some wadding. I'm going to use this to clean up the copper piping before I put it in place. I really do like this stuff, it's amazing. 25 years ago, I think it was, my daughter Emma and myself cleaned a very old brass chandelier, which used to be a gas lamp, but it's converted to electricity, and we put it up in the lounge at the other house. I had it refitted in this house at the top of the stairs, and it's a great old thing, and it's still shiny after 25 years and 1 application of Brasso. So I'm a convert, I always use this stuff, it's really good. I don't think this pipe will stay shiny for 25 years, but I'll give it a shot anyway. Here it is, not too shiny, just nice and clean. This one's got bent, so I'm straightening it before I fit it. The long pipe that's bent goes from the T-piece on the water outlet of the pump to a point just underneath the valve on the water tower. I'm currently cleaning the extension piece of pipe that goes from the union, as shown here, up to the top of the water tower. I'm going to show you something interesting. Here's one of my Barco spanners, and at the moment I'm using it to firmly clamp the centre union, and I'm using an ordinary spanner to tighten the nut, but I don't trust this ordinary spanner, it's not particularly the right size, and when I looked in my box of spanners, almost all of the small spanners were not the right size, but aha! Here I have another Barco spanner, so I can clamp them both firmly to the nut and the union, and because of the accurate mechanism and the wide jaws, they never round the nuts and they're perfect for the job. That's the water bypass from the pump taken care of. Now it's time to fit the short length of pipe that goes from the water tank to the water inlet of the hand pump. For this job I'm making up 2 pieces of copper piping, and I'm going to silver solder some union cones on the end of them. I'm in the outer part of the workshop now, and the first thing I did was clean up the ends of the copper pipe, then coat the ends of the copper pipe in Easy Flow number 2 flux, fit the union cones, and now I'm heating them up one at a time using the blowtorch, and I'm waiting for the correct temperature before I touch the silver solder stick on the work, and here we go. Did you see that? The capillary action of the silver solder actually pulled the union cone into position. Now it's time to do the same on the other one. When I get to the right temperature, the flux takes on a watery appearance, and that's the time to touch the silver solder stick on the work. After quenching the 2 pipes in some water, the thermal shock removes some of the scale. Now I'm using Scotch-Brite to remove the rest, I should really put them in the acid bath for a while, just to remove all the flux residue, but you can remove it with some Scotch-Brite. I cleaned up the brass union cones on the polishing spindle, and here I'm using the brasso wadding first, followed by a cloth to really polish up the ends of them. Now you can see what I'm doing. I'm pushing a piece of silicone rubber tubing onto the pipe, first at one end, and I fit this to the water pump inlet. There's enough copper tubing inside the silicone rubber to make it watertight. I measure the length and cut the tubing, then I fit the tubing to the other piece of copper pipe, and this in turn is tightened onto a union at the bottom of the water tank. I don't need any cable ties for this. There's more than enough surface area of the copper pipe for a water feed. Here you see the finished product, and it sort of looks better. The copper tubing is okay, but too much of it is not so good. And I'm also using the same principle to supply water to the pump. To be honest though, I'm a little bit worried about this tap. I'm concerned about the physical size of the hole through the taper plug being a little bit too small, and it may restrict the flow of water to the pump's inlet. I suppose I'll find out when I test the system. What I'm doing at the moment is filling the water tank. I'm not going to test it in this episode, you'll have to wait for the next one. All I'm doing here is just testing the system for water leaks on the water inlet side, and thankfully there aren't any. And that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website. Click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you will find it very easy to find other videos that you may like to watch.